The Trump administration asserted on Sunday that it is not legally required to facilitate the return of a Maryland man who was illegally deported from the United States. They argued that a recent Supreme Court decision only mandates officials to admit him back into the country if he manages to return from a high-security prison in El Salvador. Justice Department lawyers informed a federal judge that they interpret the Supreme Court's ruling, which instructed the administration to facilitate Kilmar Abrigo Garcia's release, as only necessitating an adjustment of his immigration status. This would allow his re-entry if the Salvadoran government decides to release him. With El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele scheduled to meet President Donald Trump on Monday, DOJ attorneys contended that the courts lacked the authority to compel the administration to engage with the Salvadoran government for a diplomatic resolution. They claim that such an order would violate the separation of powers and intrude on what they argue is the president's exclusive power to conduct foreign relations. The Justice Department attorneys wrote in a 7-page submission to U.S. District Judge Paul Azinis that all requested orders involve interactions with a foreign sovereign and potential violations of that sovereignty. They emphasized that a federal court cannot force the executive branch to engage in any mandated act of diplomacy or infringe upon another nation's sovereignty. The administration's stance indicates that officials do not see the Supreme Court's order as obligating them to seek Abrigo Garcia's return. The Salvadoran native entered the U.S. illegally around 2011 and had been residing in Maryland. The Trump administration acknowledged deporting him to El Salvador in violation of a 2019 immigration court order that barred his deportation due to a legitimate fear of persecution by a local gang. On Sunday, the administration continued to defy a Friday order from Judge Azinis, which required them to provide daily updates on their efforts to return Abrigo Garcia to the United States. The update from Evan Katz, Assistant Director of Removal Operations for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, stated that there were no updates for the judge. A day earlier, Michael Kozak, senior bureau official in the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs at the State Department, confirmed that Abrigo Garcia was still alive in El Salvador's CECOT prison. The administration is also resisting demands from Abrigo Garcia's attorneys to disclose details about the arrangement involving hundreds of foreign nationals being sent to a notorious prison in El Salvador. One of Sunday's filings insists that these details are classified and may be protected by attorney-client and state secrets privileges. Justice Department lawyer Drew Ensign argued that it would be inappropriate for the court to hastily order the production of these sensitive documents. The administration also stated it would resist efforts by Judge Azinis to demand testimony from officials regarding their thoughts on Abrigo Garcia's potential return, as such disclosures could interfere with ongoing diplomatic discussions, especially during President Bukele's visit to the United States. Nonetheless, the administration's narrow interpretation of its obligations under the Supreme Court's ruling raises the stakes for a hearing scheduled by Judge Azinis on Tuesday afternoon. The hearing aims to evaluate the steps officials are taking to arrange for Abrigo Garcia's return.